Yeah, so let's take a look at this clip of Symone Sanders bragging about the fact that there will be no democracy. And I want to react because I have a lot to say about this one.
The Democratic side, Bobby Kennedy Jr., doing well. He's at 19%. Hasn't really gotten that much out there. I mean, and I'm starting to hear more and more talk about him. Are we going to actually have a challenge here?
I'm trying not to laugh, Joe. There's not going to be.
Can I stop you for a second?
Yes.
Do you know how many people said the same thing about Donald Trump in 2015 on this show?
Except
said
I will
the
note,
same exact thing.
Yes, because there was going to be a Republican primary. But I really think that the mealy-mouthed Democrats, as I like to call them, and some of my progressive friends who would like to live in a fantasy land, they need to come back to reality. And the reality
democracy.
is the sitting president of the United States of America is a Democrat that would like to run for re-election, so much so that he has declared a re-election campaign. Right. In that case, the Democratic National Committee will not facilitate a primary process. There will be no debate stage for Bobby Kennedy, Marianne Williamson, or anyone else to stand on.
So we're going to have another Bobby Kennedy in an empty chair in the debate, right?
There will be no debate.
Yeah, no debate.
The Democratic National Committee administers the debates, and they're not going to set up a primary process for debates for someone to challenge the head of the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
What is this, fucking a monarchy? What is this? Is this a coronation? Are they ripping off King Charles' shtick over there? What the fuck is going on? This is absolute lunacy, guys. I know you're the DNC is corrupt. Like, yes, we know the DNC is corrupt, but you should still be angry about how flagrantly they're flaunting this in the people's fucking faces, right? Okay. Yeah, this is absolutely absurd. We need to, honestly, I think you should outlaw this kind of shit. The amount of control that the DNC and the RNC have in this country, I think it should fucking be illegal. I'm not the kind of guy that comes out here and says that you should outlaw shit very often, so take this sincerely from me. There is no reason why such a fundamental aspect of our democracy, right? Like the fact that we participate in these primaries, it's the bedrock of this country's main government, right? And we use the primary system all the time. We use it in local elections. We use it all, I mean, not so much like local, but like statewide, those kinds of deals. And so there are primaries that are run by private organizations. No, this has to be done transparently and by by the people, for the people, right? That's how it should be run. It's ridiculous that some private organizations could say, no, we like this guy and fuck you, we're not putting on any debates, and we're not going to facilitate a primary. Like, what? How can you say that? How can you just decide that? That should be fundamentally antithetical to the American experience. That's not democracy, right? I just think the fact that that's been so normalized, the fact that people are in our chat being like, obviously that was going to happen. It's like, dude, that's so fucked up. This is so immoral. It's wrong. And I think we're used to it. We're accustomed to it. And we're also accustomed to being lied to all the time and like convincing ourselves. This is how you know our country like runs on propaganda. Like they beat it into your fucking brain that we're like the only country with freedom. It's like bullshit, dude. A lot of people live in countries with parliamentary procedure, and that shit's way more democratic than what we fucking have. What do you mean we're the freest country in the world? In 1790s maybe, but not anymore, dude. We didn't evolve with the times. Okay, we were one rung better than a fucking monarchy. That's not the standard anymore, right? But they still beat it into your head. Oh, they hate us because of our freedom. Oh, we're the only country with freedom. What makes America the best country in the world? Freedom, freedom, freedom. Okay, that's what they tell you all the fucking time. And guess what? We have like the weakest, shoddiest, fucking like most bullshit, diluted kind of democracy, and they're trying to take away even that from us. Absolutely ridiculous. In broad daylight on national television. This is, and very little pushback from fucking Morning Joe guy, Joe Scarborough. I mean, that dude was a fucking Republican. Like, where's the heat, dog? Like, bring some pushback.
Yeah, it's total insanity the way she's treating these candidates, RFK Jr. and Marianne Williamson, because unfortunately it's not up to you, Symone Sanders, how the American people receives these options, how seriously they take candidates such as Marianne and Robert Kennedy. You might want to act like, oh, this is just a fantasy and something that progressives are hoping turns into a real primary. But again, it's not up to you. If Joe Biden was a strong president that was popular among the Democratic electorate, then he wouldn't have to worry about this. Just like how Obama didn't have to worry about this. Now, Bernie Sanders thought about primarying Barack Obama in 2012 when Obama was running for re-election, but ultimately he decided not to. And because of the fact that Obama was so popular among the Democratic Party base, he just simply didn't have to worry about anything like what Joe Biden is now having to worry about in Marianne and RFK Jr. In the same way, Donald Trump, completely skated through his reelection and absolutely obliterated his primary challenger, Bill Weld. You guys might forget about him, but Bill Weld, who was I think the former Republican governor of Massachusetts, I want to say. He ran on the Libertarian ticket in 2016 with Gary Johnson. He challenged Donald Trump for the Republican nomination in 2020, much like how RFK Jr. and Marianne Williamson are now challenging Joe Biden. The difference is that Bill Weld never got above 1 or 2%. He didn't. And therefore, the RNC never had to take that seriously. Donald Trump, of course, never had to debate Bill Weld because he was at 1%. And of course, no one would expect Joe Biden to have to debate RFK and Marianne Williamson if similarly they were at 1 or 2%. I would understand the DNC's calculus. Of course, we're not going to waste money setting up debates and doing this primary shit if these candidates can't get above 1%. We already have our nominee. He's already the head of our party. We're going to, put all our eggs in that basket. But again, that's not the case. RFK Jr. and Marianne Williamson have gotten higher in the polls at this point than I ever would have expected at 10, 20%. That's far exceeding the traditional threshold that's required to get access to the debate stage. And again, unfortunately, Symone Sanders, it's simply not up to you. You can't just cast these candidates into irrelevance. You can't just treat them as if they are the same thing as Bill Weld, when clearly Joe Biden is far less popular than previous Democratic incumbents and Republican incumbents. And the fact that these fringe outside candidates are finding any success whatsoever, the fact that they're finding any, percentage in the polling above 5% is purely a reflection of Joe Biden's incompetence and the fact that all Americans, but especially literally Democratic voters, want him out. And the funny thing too, the real condescending and ironic part about this is that people like Symone Sanders refuse to entertain the notion that perhaps the reason why Democratic voters like RFK, Marianne, and other outside candidates is because they're actually interested in the Democratic Party winning the election. It's always assumed that people who want to vote for Marianne Williamson or RFK Jr. just hate Joe Biden and they hate the Democratic Party and they want Trump to win or something. But the reality of the situation is that a lot of people that are Democratic voters are deeply invested in the Democrats winning. They do not want Donald Trump to win. And that's why they're interested in alternatives, because they know Joe Biden is so vulnerable. They're terrified of this ancient, vulnerable, compromised man who's unpopular even among his own party voters going up against Donald Trump. They see that Donald Trump has a real path to victory there. And they're like, hey guys, maybe we should get our shit together, have a primary, and elect someone as our nominee who can actually take this guy on. Now, whether that's Marianne Williamson or RFK Jr. or someone else who maybe has yet to jump into the race remains to be seen. But again, it's just so condescending for her to act like people that want someone else than Joe Biden are doing so for ulterior motives, or they have this, they actually secretly hate the Democratic Party. It just makes no sense to me. And given Joe Biden's age, given his polling, it makes all the sense in the world why people would want a different candidate.
Oh yeah. It's just gaslighting is what it is, right? They obviously are aware that if you put Joe Biden on a debate stage with any other two people on fucking planet Earth, not to mention, to capable candidates who are actually willing to relate to the American public, right? Their polling is going to go through the roof, and people are going to want Joe Biden out even more, right? And they're terrified of having somebody like Marianne, get in front of the American people and say, "Hey guys, do you guys still want healthcare? Do you still want to fucking actually accomplish things? Hey, how much better do you feel like your life is now, right?" And you have to have a good message, because Joe Biden is going to get beat to fucking hell on the debate stage about inflation, right? He's going to get beat to fucking hell about it. And look, it's not a lot of it doesn't have to do with it's not Donald Trump that was making things cheaper, right? It was that COVID fucked up a lot of things and then made things a lot more expensive, and companies are price gouging. And I agree, Joe Biden should be stepping in and he should be doing something about it. Of course, he's not though, and so he's about to be very vulnerable to that kind of attack. And I think that's going to be one of the big things that Trump goes after him for, and that's gonna be effective. When I listen to people talk about Joe Biden, all they say, like I hear it all the time, is that, well, things were cheaper under Donald Trump. I feel like people say that shit all the time because that's a really good message for the Republican Party, right? So that you need somebody that's going to come up and have an actual answer for that. Say, here's how we're going to make things more affordable. Here's how we're going to raise your wages. Here's how we're going to address things like climate change. Here's how we're going to actually start building infrastructure in this country. Here's how we're going to, do X, Y, and Z, and actually have an answer for it and have a new, fresh face, because nobody is going to believe that Joe Biden is going to accomplish a goddamn thing. So by not having a primary, they're effectively sealing the deal that they're just happy to lose. They're just they're happy to be resistance Dems while there's another Donald Trump presidency. It's actually the progressive flank, her progressive friends that she was talking about, that are desperately trying to prevent another 4 years of Donald Trump's presidency.